Fighting for action rather than hunting for spies. This is Sega Masters. How's that for an entrance? November of 1986 would see a pair of Mega cartridges released for the Master System in the US, and the first we'll look at is Action Fighter, an overhead vertical shoot-'em-up adapted from a Sega arcade cabinet which was only released in Japan. One that just may remind you of another classic coin-up. Like most shooters, the backstory is mostly irrelevant. Action Fighter casts you as a secret agent working for some government organization that's taking on some enemy threat through 5 stages of action. Once you type in your name on this entry screen, you're presented with your first main target from supposedly the president himself. Completing your mission involves taking the controls of this special vehicle that can transform into several forms, which starts out as this motorcycle Sega claims is the very bike from Hang On, and zooming down the streets of this generic city, knocking out any hostile automobiles that attempt to impede your mission. As I mentioned earlier, Action Fighter was originally an arcade cabinet crafted by Sega that was never released outside of Japan. You can see it was heavily inspired by Midway's smash hit coin-up Spy Hunter, with similar vertical shooting action. However, while Midway's game allowed you to swap between a car or a boat at certain locations, Sega's coin-up did it one better by offering 5 possible vehicles to utilize. A motorcycle, a car, a helicopter, a dune buggy, and a jet ski, and you switch between them at specific checkpoints. Action Fighter apparently did well enough to convince Sega to put it to its home platform, but rather than a straight-up conversion, Sega opted to instead rework the coin-up into something that might work better on their console, with a number of changes that almost make it an entirely different game. Not that the Sega gamers in the US and Europe would notice at the time, since they most likely wouldn't have known about the original coin-up. Instead of one long continuous map, the game is broken into 5 levels of shooting action, each one containing a timer taking down from 1000 seconds. As you're blasting the other vehicles on the road, this Sega truck will frequently appear, and successfully docking with it will upgrade your weapon, from regular dots to more powerful missiles. Other dockings will enable surface-to-air missiles to deal with the choppers pestering you from above, and even grant you temporary invincibility. Of equal importance are these letters that frequently drift down the road, as they're the key to access your vehicle's other forms, so it's imperative to collect them as quickly as possible. While Action Fighter's difficulty is not as punishing as the original quarter-munching coin-up, it is still mostly on the high side since it's real easy for your foes to gang up and knock you into the sidelines in bike mode. Fortunately, as long as the timer has seconds remaining, you can perish any number of times and still continue your mission. You even respawn near where you perished, so you never have to worry about making up too much ground. Successfully collecting letters A, B, C, D will transform your motorcycle into this sports car which has double the firepower. You can swap between both forms at any time by pushing both buttons on the controller together, and while the bike is more maneuverable and a smaller target, the car won't get knocked around so easily and is the recommended vehicle to stick with. As if copying one arcade classic wasn't enough for Sega, once letters E and F are in your possession, wings are eventually added to your car, making it into some sort of jet craft. Then you take to the air for the second phase of the level, which is very reminiscent of the classic Namco shooter Xevious. Hostile aircraft constantly swarm at you in waves and need to be shot down with your guns. You're also equipped with bombs to deal with the ground-based foes also gunning for you. Unfortunately, these segments bump at already high difficulty to near frustrating levels as your foes often take multiple hits with your default gun before expiring. It doesn't help that the enemy bullets can often be camouflaged by the white clouds as well, so it's not unusual to find yourself shot down and not knowing by what. While the Sega truck obviously won't help you in the air, you can collect cloud P dots that appear which serve pretty much the same function, and you will need to bulk your firepower up as quickly as possible to stand a chance. If the high difficulty wasn't enough, these segments seem to drag on for far too long as well, further testing your patience and resolve to see your mission to the end. Not to mention once the timer expires, you have but a few scant lives in reserve to continue your crusade, and once those run out, the game ends, with no way to continue. After what feels like an eternity, you finally reach your intended target and need to take it out in a standard arcade-style boss battle to complete the stage. As usual, you simply dodge the enemy fire and get in your blows when an opening presents itself. Should you survive long enough to prevail against your foe, you're given some quick congratulations from the president. Then you're presented with your next major target before setting out on the next grueling mission, thankfully with a fresh timer as well. In a nice touch of continuity, you begin in the air and have to survive another lengthy aerial gauntlet before switching back into land mode. And that pattern switches back and forth through the kart's remaining levels, all of which unfold in nearly identical fashion. A number of cheat codes are available to help you endure the grueling difficulty, all of which merely need to be typed into the name entry screen. But it won't change the fact that this kart is another instance where you can see everything it has to offer by just playing through the first level. All 5 of the game's stages consist of you traveling through the same pair of vibrantly colored environments repeatedly while battling the same group of enemies over and over, with no new foes introduced the rest of the way, outside of the bosses. You'll be wishing the programmers threw in a few different scenes or enemies to give your eyes something new to look at. Meanwhile, your ears are treated to a very small selection of looping background tunes that start off decent, but get rather annoying after a very short time and will have you reaching for the mute button before too long. In conclusion, Action Fighter isn't a terrible game for a Spy Hunter Xevious hybrid, and can be somewhat enjoyable in short bursts, yet it shows that it's clearly an early Master System title with its repetitive presentation and generic gameplay that just doesn't have enough interesting or unique features to keep you engaged for the long haul. Not to mention how it tries to compensate for the lack of depth with a severe difficulty, which can be a put-off. You'll certainly be hard-pressed to spend any significant time with Action Fighter, when the console's library has since been blessed with plenty of other titles offering far more exciting gameplay to satisfy shoot-'em-up fans.